So welcome back to the fourth and last part of the Builder's Challenge. Now, in the last one, we got that lumber pretty well cut up and installed. Massive job, starting to look beautiful. And this one, we're going to look at the stairs and the railings. But first of all, let's talk about the Kahoot Challenge, because there are prizes to be won, being won, actually. Stay tuned for the next Kahoot hack password at the end of this challenge for the last of the four. And in the upcoming segment. Now, there's a little note I received here on the Kahoot winner, is that the guy who won the last one was in first place for this one. So they're bumping down to the second place because they want four winners at the end of the day for the final. Okay. So the people who set the rules, it's not me. Okay. So let's see. What else do we have to do here? Is the winner. Do we have the winner up? Yes, we do. Huh?
Yes, we do.
Okay. This is for a DeWalt cordless drill and driver set. And Andrew, the winner is?
Radiant Quail.
Say that again.
Radiant Quail.
Radiant Quail. That's cool. I like a name like that. Okay. So when you sign up for the Kahoot if you haven't done it yet, you use your real address, the same one you used to sign up for the conference, so we know where to send the prizes, and they give you a pseudonym like Radiant Quail. And so, and you need to collect the Kahoot prize number. That would be at the end of this segment. We'll show it on the screen. And so you get that, put it into your app. Okay. And the next, by the way, the next Kahoot prize will be for a $350 Visa gift card. So hang around. You want to enter in to do that. I think that's about it. Should we get back to work?
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Let's hit the construction site. Welcome back to the fourth and last session of the Builder's Challenge. Now, in this section of the Builder's Challenge, we're going to tackle building the stairs and installing the rails. Stairs are considered the most complex part of building a house, although stairs for decks are a bit easier because we usually have all the room we want for the run of the stairs. That allows us to put safety first, never making them too steep and always making them with a good wide stair tread. We are creatures of habit, especially when it comes to walking on stairs, because after we take about 2 or 3 steps, our brain just locks in and says, that's what I've got all the way down. In fact, we want every step to be the same size. Now think about it. When you've walked down a staircase and the bottom step was too short, what happened is that you got to that last step and you slammed into the ground because you didn't expect it to be there yet. Or if it was too tall in the bottom, you kind of tip over because you stopped your foot in the air before you hit the ground, and then your body leaned forward. And when you're walking up a staircase, if the top step is too short, then your foot stops above the floor, but your body keeps going, and it has to drop down and catch you. Worse yet is if the top is too tall. Now that usually happens when you don't calculate taking into account the last layer of the floor. And for us with the deck, that's a 2x6 on the top. If you didn't remember to put that top 2x6 in the calculation, then you'll have a tall first step. And as you come up there, you'll always catch your toe on the top because you didn't expect the deck to be there yet. So our primary objective in building staircases is to have exactly the same height, the same rise, and the same run for every single step. Now the math is pretty simple, especially for decks, but let me show you that in images. Put your concrete landing where you think the stairs will sit. Then extend out a board from the very top of the deck over that footing. That'll give you the total rise, in this case 34 inches. Each step should be about 7 inches high, so divide 7 into your total rise. That gives us 4.8, but we need all steps to be the same height. So let's round that up to 5 steps. Now go back to your total rise and divide by 5 steps. That gives us 6.8 inches per step, or 6 3/16 inches per rise. So now you know your rise. For a deck, the run is even easier. We don't even calculate. We make the steps on most decks out of two 2x6 boards with a little space between them. We put a riser under the nose of the step, leaving the step about ½ an inch overhang. The riser on the back side can be about an inch further back than the steps. When you measure from the back of one riser to the back of the other, you get 9 1/8 inch run. Multiply that by 5 and you get your 34-inch total rise and 45 5/8 inch total run. Now you can use a carpenter square with 2 board stops to lay out and cut your stringers. Now we need to figure out how long a board do you need for your stair stringers. Well, the math is simply that it's the square root of the total run squared plus the total rise squared. Did you get that? If you don't have a whiz kid who's good at geometry, forget that. Just find a room that has a square corner, or a deck or a patio with a square corner. You go to the corner, and from the corner you measure out the total run of your staircase that we just figured out in the last exercise. So you have your total run, you mark that. Then on the other part of that, you go out square away from it with the total rise of your staircase. And then you draw a diagonal between those 2 points, and the length of that diagonal is the minimum board you need. A little bit extra for the cutoffs, but that gives you close to what you need for the stair stringer. No math, no calculations, and it works every time. Now that we have our rise and our run, we're ready to lay out the cutouts on the stringer board. One really important detail is the only strength on this stringer board after you cut out those steps is the continuous piece of wood that's left. That's why we use wide boards like a 2x10. And you have to be careful with that long piece. If there's a knot or something to weaken it, flip the board before you cut it out. That way we have continuous grain. If for some reason it's weak, you could sister it with a 2x4. Now you're going to need a carpenter square, and it's really good to have 2 little things called square gauges. They are metal pieces that clamp onto the square. You clamp one on at the rise and clamp the other one on at the run, and you've got a tool custom made for your staircase. When the square, with its stop gauges attached, is set to the side of the stringer board, each step appears like magic. You simply trace one step after another and use the same angle settings to get the vertical marks for the riser below the bottom step and the angle for butting the top to the deck. Cutting the steps out of the stringer requires some stability to do it well, and here Corey demonstrates a great technique. He's using the unfinished deck to literally screw his stringer down at a convenient and stable height for saw work. A careful straight cut will keep your steps from rocking. And of course, stopping exactly at the end of the mark is important to not cut into and weaken the support section of the stringer. You will need a handsaw or a recip saw to finish what the circular saw can't do in the stop cut. Although you may need to move the board and screw it down again, keep that same careful cutting going right to the ends of the stringer. Now you can test your layout by leaning the stringer up to the deck and see if the support pads are in the right position. This landing pad could have been a problem. The stringer is not properly supported. Only the unnotched part of the stringer has any strength, and here it is barely sitting on the concrete pad. They caught the problem and moved the support pads. Always take the time necessary to adjust things. If they'd not caught it, the stringer would have probably broken off from the first step. Now it's time to worry about deck and ramp safety. If your deck is more than just one step off the ground, you really need to worry about railings to keep somebody from falling off backwards, and handrails for the stairs so they can be negotiated safely. Ramps have a whole bunch of building code requirements, but you may even want to make a lower slope than the maximum allowed by the building code if you have somebody who has difficulty maneuvering up a ramp. Now, if you do that, it's going to lengthen your ramp, and you'll have to do switchbacks like we built here. Now, anytime you have a switchback pad or a pause pad in a ramp, it has to be big enough that it's very easy for the person to turn the wheelchair completely around without accidentally sliding downhill backwards. And there's one other requirement for the deck that very few people are aware of. Take a look at this. To prevent the wheels of wheelchairs or the feet of people sitting in the wheelchairs from getting caught on the railing posts while they're rolling downhill, it is required to install 2x6 blocking flush with the inside of the posts. Without these wheel guides, someone could get caught, spun around, and go sideways or backwards down the ramp. Well, you don't need this on a flat deck. Note carefully that these guards are nailed flush to the posts on the inside of the ramp run, preventing a wheel from getting caught on a post. Spindle gaps need to be less than 4 inches apart. That's to prevent a baby's head from getting stuck in there. So this is important, and to assure the right spacing, to get them all the same, a simple block with a nail in it can be used to space your spindles. Notice the angle of his nail gun? Nailing spindles at a steep angle gives a better grip than straight in and avoids spindles coming loose. The camera crew left at the end of day 4 with a little bit of detail still to be finished, but as you can see, it was looking pretty good. Well, a few days later, we sent Andrew back to get the beauty shots. Wow, that's a true addition to this house. There is, of course, a lot that we didn't talk about, but I hope that you gained some insights and tips to help your next project go smoothly. But we're not over yet. Let's jump back to the conference and join Andrew live for more prizes and more questions and answers. Stairs and railings. The devil is in the detail, isn't it? Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not hearing myself, so I just want to make sure I'm there. But you do have to do very careful detailing to get all that done right. I have a question for you, Andrew, on this is where do you get specs for the ramps when you want to get information about the slope and all of those landing pads and stuff? Where do you get that?
If you go into part 9 of the building code, there is a whole section on decks, ramps, and landings. So it depends on if it's a commercial, like if it's like a commercial building, there's different rules and regulations, but we follow the residential rules. So
that's right. The
yeah, it's pretty well laid out.
Okay. The important details, those are minimums.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can change that if you're on the safe side of the change. So like the slope, if you want a lazier slope that's going to be easier to get up, then you get a longer deck or longer ramp. But that's all right. You can't make it steeper though, because then people will start bobsledding down to the bottom. And we don't want that as we're coming down. Anything else that you saw that we slid over too fast? Because there was so much to do there.
It depends. One time, depending on who's using the ramp, we can actually put little cleats, even 3/8 pieces of plywood on the actual decking, narrower than the wheels on
right
the
in the middle,
wheelchair.
right in the middle of the run.
Yeah, and that gives that gives a little extra traction for the person, assisting the person in the wheelchair up the ramp. It helps a lot.
So they got to be small enough to not get in the way of the wheels, and large enough that you can walk easily up. But that, particularly when it gets a little bit icy, then it gives you a grip to be able to get a hold of. Okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, do I have questions? What's up on the question side?
Yeah, we do. We had a question here. What is the best slope for ramps? Is the building's code required slope to steep?
What do you think? What's your experience?
I found the 1 to 12, which is code for residential, is pretty good. Based on what we were building, the last run was a little bit. It was a little bit more than 1 to 12, so it was like 1 to 13. So it was a little more gradual. But as long as you don't go over that 1 to 12, I found it very easy to get up. There was very little effort used to get up into the different platforms there. So
My judgment on that is a little bit the health of the person that wants to be autonomous. I mean, if they can't even wheel up a ramp, then somebody's
Yeah.
pushing and 1 to 12 works. But if they want to do it themselves and they're not that strong or not that sure-handed, you might want to give them a little bit more leeway. But they got to pump longer, and you may have to put a rest pad in there, huh? A landing
Exactly.
pad to
Yeah.
stop and take your breath and then go on up. Other questions?
Well, we've got one here. I think we answered this one already about do you need to treat the end cuts on the pressure treated lumber? We did answer that one in the last one. But
Okay, but they're asking, do you need it?
yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't even think it's code required, but it is manufacturer required for the guarantee on pressure treated wood. But the real objective of it, particularly any cut that's in a dead end where you can't get in and do anything to it, the water still gets there and it's dark, and it sits there, and that's where it'll start rotting and loosening up nails and everything else. So you're really healing the shell of protection if you do put it on. And I'm delighted that when they came out with the end cut treatment we were showing in the video, it doesn't smell bad like the old stuff. I mean, in my day, you had to stay 3 blocks away when somebody was doing end cut treatment. But now it doesn't smell so bad, and it's color matched, so it is not the big green splash. So yes,
Yeah.
take the time to do it. It makes you'll find 10 years from now, your deck is still alive. That'll make a difference. Okay. So I think that we're just about ready to wrap up this section 3. We need to give you, or this challenge 4, actually, was it not? Or no, we're on the decks there. I'm getting myself turned around here. Okay. The Passport to Prizes code. What is our Passport to Prizes code for the Builder's Challenge number 4? It is LEARN. LEARN. Okay. So we'll see that. Now, where are we going at this time? We need to Passport Prizes. We got that. If you haven't yet, Kahoot app, you need to get into that. If you get into it, make sure you use the email that you signed up for the conference with so they know where to send the prizes. And the next Kahoot prize is going to be $350 Visa gift card. And so you want to sign up and get that one. And by the way, the Passport for Prizes is open right up until 5 o'clock. So you get 5 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. So the conference will still be going in. The builder's code Kahoot challenge game for section 4 here is 058022354. So you want to write that down and get it in so that you can win a $350 Visa gift card. And if you have all 4 Kahoot codes and all 4 exhibitor codes, then you're eligible for other cash prizes as you're going. So now, by the way, the winner for this and all the day's winners will be listed on the conference activity feed. So you go to the conference activity feed, and it's like getting a whole list of lotteries, and you find out if you got it or didn't get it. Now, I think that we have another thank you to Sioux Lookout Home Hardware and the Building Center for great service for us and all of that lumber. It was pretty darn good lumber you got, huh? It was
Really good,
looking
yeah.
good on the video, yeah. Now, I encourage everyone to come back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to join the workshops. And the conference is still going on, 3-day conference like we always have in Thunder Bay. What we're dealing with tomorrow, I'll read it to you to get it right here. Subdivision development, home heating, the National First Nations Homeless Action Plan, and more. Okay, and at the closing ceremonies, as always, hang around for the closing ceremonies, because at the closing ceremonies, we're drawing for over $3,000 in prizes. And so you want to have a chance to win the Passport to Prizes. Don't miss that. Okay. This has been quite an adventure. Andrew, you went out camping in the way up in the community. And I sat down in the warmth of my studio, but I had to dig through all your footage and figure out how to present it. So I think both Andrew and I have had a great fun trying to compensate for the pandemic and find a way to make an interesting building challenge for you again this year, even though we're not having you in there swinging your hammers as usual. And I don't get a trip to Thunder Bay either. Well, you don't either, do you? Oh, okay.
No.
And Andrew can drive over, so that's easier for him. Okay, anything I'm missing, Andrew? Your last words?
Well, we do have a bit more time. There's a couple more questions that did come in.
Oh, let's go.
So, so we did have someone who actually answered it in the question and answer period. There was a, what's the maximum gradient, which was, like we said, the 1 to 12.
Okay.
It's an easy one to figure out because for every 12 inches you're going out, you're only dropping down 1 inch. So if you're 16 feet apart, you know you're going to be that much of a difference between point A to point B. So
that's my graphical calculations.
Exactly.
Getting diagonal with using a square in the room.
Yeah. And then one more question here is what is done at the bottom of the ramp to transition from the ramp to the finished grade to make wheelchair access the easiest?
You had concrete blocks, I think, on the bottom of this one.
Yeah, there is a code requirement there.
Okay.
I believe it's the same width as your ramp, but it also has to go out 30 inches.
Okay.
Minimum.
We'll give you a turnaround possibility and all of that.
Yeah, it's just a nice, basically another resting area. You don't want the wheels to dig into the ground. Like where we were doing the ramp, there was sand there. So, you know, when it's really dry, the wheels could sink in and you could get stuck, right?
Well, that's a really sandy area. I would suspect he might even need a boardwalk going out to the road or something that, or one of those special wheelchairs. I had a friend that had a special wheelchair made for going through sand. Can you believe it? Almost an amphibious wheelchair.
When I picked out the materials, I did allow for a bigger area there because probably what's going to happen is you'll have a vehicle pull up and you want to have an area where, you know, the person could be in the wheelchair, two other people could be there. It's good to have a hard surface to clear with a snow shovel if it's nice and flat. Right. A lot of little things to consider. Sometimes you go beyond what code requires based on, you know, the situation. And the landing doesn't bother anybody else because it's flat. It's with the landscape. So exactly, it's not an obstruction even to cars or anything else. Right. Yeah. Okay. Has that got all our questions? Yeah, I think so. That was great. It was lots of fun working with the crew out in Kijik Bay. We worked with Corey, RJ, Sandra, and Darren. We both learned from each other. I actually watched, from my point of view, I watched some learning going on as they went along. I could see Corey dropping by, giving hints, giving nudges. And as I watched the details of their working, it got better and better as we went. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really fun to see that happening as they picked that up. And so many of these things are not complicated. It's just to understand a little technique. And once you've got that technique, whether it's triggering on and off a gun that wants to, a driver that wants to just pop out of the screw all the time, you can get the job done and get in there and understand positioning. You know, bother to go around to the other side and sit down on the ground so you can push in straight instead of trying to lean over backwards like a monkey and screw in a screw from hanging from someplace. But, oh, and I loved your tip. We did talk about it in the video, but I loved your tip about shooting the spindle nails on an angle, because then the nail's not straight in. As I understood it, the nail's not straight in the wood, which it could come straight back out. But by being crooked and then you push this way, it can't let go. I used to do that for crown molding too. I would actually take two nails and diverge them so that, because it's hanging over your head, the last thing you want to do is have something fall on your head, and you're only using brad nails. Put on a bit of an angle and opposite each other. It's almost like toenailing, but easier with a gun like that. Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I hope that this has helped you folks and given you some insight to things, encouraged you that you can do it yourself, and that you take the time and the patience to do it all, because this was really a long build. It could have been slapped together faster, but the results you see there could not have been done by slapping it together faster. They really built a nice piece of furniture out there. Congratulations to all of you. Well,
Well, I guess that's about it. We'll invite everybody back for 1 o'clock tomorrow. The workshops go on. In fact, Andrew will be giving one of them. So do join us then. And I enjoyed doing this whole thing. I just wish I was there to chat with you all, maybe next year.
Yeah, it'll be hopefully next year we can all be together again.
And hammer thumbs.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right. Got my construction.